continue across the nation in the wake of George Floyd's death. Many now calling on the removal of Confederate symbols and police reform.
This as many states, including Texas, are seeing a surge in COVID-19 cases. We're joined now by Governor Greg Abbott to discuss it all. Governor, the president was in Dallas yesterday. You met him there at Love Field before he had a roundtable discussion on policing. What specifically do you think needs to change with policing in Texas? Would you support a database that tracks officer conduct? And do you think certain tactics like chokeholds need to be forbidden?
Listen, one thing that I'm doing, and I think members of the legislature are doing, we are reviewing all aspects of this. There's some simple goals, and then there are some more complex goals. The simple one is that we want to ensure that what happened to George Floyd is not replicated here in the state of Texas. And so the types of force that are used in certain situations need to be reviewed. At the same time, there's much bigger issues that need to be evaluated, that some of which go way beyond law enforcement, such as making sure that we are able to bridge the divide that we have with regard to racial communities in the state of Texas, lifting up people of every racial community in this state, understanding that we all work together for the same goal, and that is the state of Texas. That said, one thing that was discussed yesterday that I discussed also, and that is the wrong step to take would be these notions that we will abolish police departments or reduce the police force, because we need to understand police and law enforcement, they play a vital role in keeping our communities safe. That said, we can support our law enforcement with better training, with better tools and better strategies. And all of these are issues that we as a state will continue to work on to do our part to make sure that we don't have a situation like the murder of George Floyd here in Texas.
Now, President Trump has openly come out and said he won't consider renaming certain military bases like Fort Hood. The U.S. Army has said it actually is open to that discussion. So do you think bases, statues, monuments with Confederate ties should be renamed or removed? Well,
listen, I'll leave to the U.S. military what they decide to do. Let me tell you all what Texas has done, because one of the pathways to take here is the pathway that Texas has taken, and that is to make sure that we educate the public about all sides of history. So we tell the full story of our state. And so what Texas did to achieve that is, as you come to our Capitol grounds, as you enter them, you'll see the first monument that you come to. And I think the largest on the Texas Capitol grounds is the monument celebrating what African Americans have done in Texas. It goes from the time of overcoming slavery to getting their freedom, to getting suffrage, to becoming leaders in this state. And it shows the possibility of what can be achieved in this state. And so it's a way of lifting up and celebrating the role that African Americans have played. But it does not stop there, because remember, Texas was a multicultural state even before we were a state, when we first became our own country. And we celebrate that history also with the Tejano Monument there at the very front of the Texas Capitol grounds. So the role that Texas plays is one to more fully explain every very meaningful chapter of the rich history of our state.
And so you do or you don't believe that they should be renamed or removed?
Again, the role that we're taking in Texas is one that fully explains the role that each of these artifacts or museum elements have played in our history, and the role that the African Americans have played in our state, and the role that they continue to play in our state, the role that Tejanos have played in our state, and the role that they continue to play in our state. And so what we want to do is exactly what should be done, for example, in history classes. And that is, in history classes, we need to not purge certain pages of history, but we need to fully explain every chapter that has taken place, showing that as each chapter goes, the book gets better. In this case, as each chapter has been added to the book of the history of Texas, our state has become better.
Governor, this week we're seeing a record number of hospitalizations in Texas from coronavirus. Our cases here locally in Bell County and Brazos County are surging. We have a viewer question from Maria Castro, who wants to know if you have a plan in place now that more cases of COVID-19 are rising.
Sure. Listen, there are several plans in place. One is you need to understand why cases may be rising in certain regions. For example, 2 days ago, there was a massive increase in those testing positive in Jefferson County, which is where Beaumont is. The reason for that, they went from an average of about 10 to, in one day, well over 500. The reason is because those test results were coming back from tests that we had undertaken in prisons, and so it's easy to explain. Others are not quite as easy, but know this, and that is wherever there is an increase in cases, we are putting surge teams in place to conduct more testing to identify what the issue is and to respond to the issue. But then secondly is the importance of making sure that we have plenty of hospital capacity available to treat anybody who tests positive. Let's look at Waco, for example. It's my understanding that right now there are 5 patients in hospital beds in Waco because of COVID-19, but there remain more than 257 beds that are available. So it shows that in Waco, for example, there's plenty of hospital capacity for anybody who may test positive for the illness.
Governor Abbott joining us from Austin. Thank you for taking some time on this Friday night to be with us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.